Tonight's gray area drinking conversation with the coach. Let me start again. Tonight's conversation with the gray area drinking coach is with Isabella Ferguson, and you all really want to stick around for this because Isabella has a unique story, her own drinking story. She brings some unique differentiators as a professional, as a coach, as a counselor, and then a really unique offering working with adults who want some support with their kids. So stick around. Isabella is joining us from Australia. That's why I'm coming on at this time in the U.S. Really unique differentiators, which makes it really fun because all of the gray area drinking coaches bring their own kind of different strengths and gifts. And there she is. Hi, Isabella.
Hello, Jane. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm really well. So excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. What time is it there for you?
It's 11 in the morning on Saturday. So that's why I'm kind of tucked away upstairs. I've got all the kids downstairs making noise. So, but yeah, it's easier over here, I think, in terms of time. I think you're late, aren't you? You're 7 p.m.
7 p.m. on the East Coast. So I'm
Yeah.
talking to you in the future, which is how the trainings go. We do the trainings at this time so that the Australians can join us the next morning
Right.
in the future. So, and you mentioned the kids downstairs. I mentioned in the intro, you have a really unique offering. So everyone stick around because Isabella has some different story pieces that you're really going to want to hear. And I also want to say up front, if you've been watching these and you're interested in the training, submit your application this weekend because, I mean, I don't do kind of that whole scarcity thing of like spaces are filling, but they are. Like, I'm interviewing people, I'm reviewing the applications. So if you want to get into this cohort, submit your application this weekend so I can get an interview scheduled with you this week. So Isabella went through the training from Australia last fall, and she's one of my new master coaches. Let's start with your story. I primed it a little bit that you have a little bit of a different story, and it's a story that I want to talk about because it's important. So let's start there. Tell everyone your drinking story.
Sure. So I was certainly a grey area drinker for a good 20 years of my life. But in the last year, so when I hit 45 was when I most quickly slid into, I'd say, red flag, dangerous territory. So for me, that ended up in me spending 4 weeks in rehab, which I'll certainly jump to. But I'm certainly, I think, a cautionary example that when you are noticing red flags, when you're in that grey area drinking space, try and act on them early because it's so much easier to sort of, I guess, untangle yourself from alcohol earlier rather than later. But yeah, for me, I guess the die was cast quite young. I started drinking with my friends quite young, so from the age of 14. And I used it to connect, to socialise, and I also used it to find my voice and my opinion. And this continued throughout high school, then into university. I used it to cope with stress when I was doing my law exams. And then when I was, in the legal workplace as a lawyer. So I was managing, I was functioning, but I was certainly having a bottle of wine towards the end of that stage 3 or 4 nights a week. But it really got out of control when I stopped work as a lawyer and I went home to look after the kids. And I had a kid with quite severe separation anxiety. And I was on the pointy end of burnout by that point. And I made my new career socialising and connecting with all these beautiful women in my neighbourhood. And it wasn't alcohol I was craving at that point, it was connection. Because I'd always been the mum at the school gates looking at all these lovely women and not being able to really get there and connect with them. So I really threw myself into all of that mummy wine culture. But then it got to the point where it wasn't connection it was craving, it was alcohol. And right towards the end, I was a busy mum. I was trying to be a perfect mum. I was doing all of the things, socialising, dancing, drinking, exercising, binging. And then I started do silly things. So the last year was horrible. I started to hide bottles. Had a separate bottle in my wardrobe in my bedroom that I was drinking from. I was starting to drink earlier and earlier, and it was a highway to rehab, essentially. So it was drastic, and I am very grateful I had that 4 weeks of surrender. You know, what have I done? How do I get out of this? And it was self-care, slowing down, and then piecing my life together afterwards. And it was in rehab that I enrolled to become, qualify as a counsellor. And there the work began. So as many of us do at that point, we're self-healing and then trying to build a purpose and career around it. And for me, the first stage of recovery that really worked was all of the cognitive work. Because I was so far up that path, I really needed some strong behavioural shifts, and that came in the form of This Naked Mind, and I got my This Naked Mind qualifications as well. And then after that, there was certainly something missing, because I had really lived as a lawyer in that logical sphere, but I was so disconnected from my body. And we know that drinking is an abandonment of yourself. Well, I had abandoned, that connection. And little did I know, I was using extreme size, sugar, and alcohol previously to really regulate quite a stressed nervous system. So what I then discovered was the work that you did, Jolene, and all of that nourishment and replenishment of your body. And that's when I really jumped into your Nourish program, and then learned that you were offering spots for people that had set up their business to learn to be a grey area drinking coach. And it has just been the most amazing part of my counselling and coaching practice.
Well, I want to get into that. I want to get into your experience with the training. And I want to back up, because your story is really important for people to hear. The high achieving attorney, professional woman, this is it. And there's millions in this demographic with the advanced degrees. The life and the career resume are impressive. And like you said, I functioned. And you said there was the kind of that turning point at 45. Was that when you left your legal career that then the alcohol amped up?
Yeah, it was exactly at that point. It was a whole lot of reasons. I had more time at home alone when the kids were at school. I also didn't have distraction as much as I did previously, and I didn't have the external validation that I got from work. So there was a bit of a loss of purpose, and who the heck was I?
Right.
Yeah. So
and that's what I want people to hear, because this is a characteristic. Some type of loss. It's in the stories. It's there. I hear it all the time. So loss of kind of that career identity, loss of a relationship, loss of a pregnancy, a marriage, a parent, an aging parent. It's there. And so it's that loss of that career identity, and the drinking amps up, and then you stepped right into the mommy culture, where there's that heavy culture of drinking. And these are such characteristic marks on the gray area drinking journey. And why your story is important, and why I want people to hear it, is, this is also is not just kind of a cavalier, trivial thing. It's progressive. I mean, I know that's traditional kind of AA language, but gray area drinking is nothing to mess around with. If we keep drinking the way we've been drinking month after month, year after year, like you said, you were, on the doorstep of rehab, which was a positive experience.
It was, but I heard somebody say this the other day, and it was so true. You drink and it's magic, and then it's medicinal, and then it's madness, and you can so very quickly fall into that end stage, and you start acting and behaving in a way that is so it's the opposite of all that you live, all of your values. You sort of can turn into this dishonest, person that is fixated on alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that thought as well. I was like, how did I get to kind of this person? Like, I wasn't I didn't grow up with a lot of drinking. It wasn't my family was not anti-alcohol,
Yeah.
but people in my family didn't drink the way I was drinking in my late 30s and 40s. And I had that same thought of like, how did I get here? This is not, yeah, and kind of values and teaching wellness. And there's that fork in the road. There's a real kind of point of which way am I going to go? And many, many women come to that point. And that's where the coaching is so valuable and so
Yeah,
helpful.
absolutely. It really is. I mean, I think it's a lot. My clients sort of have exactly that same thought process as well. It's like drinking was fun in my 20s, then I was sort of just happened to be there in my 30s, and then you get to your 40s and you're like, well, how do I want to live the second half of my life? This is not working. What do I do?
Yeah. Yeah. And like so many who come into my training, very similar, you know, your initial training was as an attorney, worked as an attorney, then you went back and got your counseling degree, went through this Naked Mind. And so again, lifelong learners, continuing to get different certifications and really understand all of these different approaches, and then coming for the real nuanced training and development with gray area drinking. So you're the profile of many coaches who come in and do my training.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was just going to say,
go ahead.
it's with the training, it feels like that sort of you're tapping into continued education. So all of the newest research that's out there, you provide us with that. We don't feel like we're kind of alone in this sphere of being a coach and a counselor to people. You're always tapping into another resource. And I've just found that so invaluable. That's just one part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. I want to hear about your experience of the training, because I remember early on we were doing some of, I think kind of, I don't quite remember what specifically we were talking about, but just the cueing back of what are you noticing in your body. And I remember kind of early on, you were just like, what is this even? I don't even,
Yeah.
I don't know what you mean by that. Do you want to say more about your experience with it?
Yeah. I was hopeless. So myself, very hopeless at really understanding where anything felt, any of those sort of indicators that a lot of counsellors ask you, where are you feeling the stress and the tension in your body? All of that. I couldn't put sort of feelings into words. So all of that, I was just so I could really just learn from you, and it really just it was that, I guess, that lack of understanding of why we need external things to self-soothe, what can we do about it, and all of those resources that you give us are things that I use with my clients. They're also things that I'm still using, you know, with myself as I'm continually going on. So what was really interesting is that the things that I had done quite naturally when I was recovering from alcohol are actually things that are they're very real parts of your Nourish course, used to relax your nervous system. So, for example, when I was in rehab, I spent a lot of time painting, and I spent a lot of time sitting out in the sun. Well, you know, I'm learning that these are the two essential parts that you can do to relax your nervous system. So, yeah, all of those amazing parts of nourishing your body and your mind are such a lovely piece to be able to offer to clients, because they feel like they're losing something with alcohol, but you're taking away this this self-care, this reward, this one thing that has got them through the struggles with kids and life. But what we're able to learn is that using their own resources, their own strengths, they can actually replenish and gain so much. So it's 360. It's a 360 care model, which I think is just so fabulous to offer.
What's been your favorite piece of it, just personally, and that you find you use most with clients?
Look, I think, well, the main part of the training that I have will forever be grateful for is the where you've highlighted that the intake call with your client needs to be a solid 90-minute history where you really look at everything. So you're not looking at the end part and how they got into this troubling spot with alcohol, but you're looking at what did their parents do? What relationship or attachment did they have to their parents? What are their passions? What do they do to relax? Their sleep history? How do they eat? So you're getting a real full picture so that when you're able to go through your sessions, you're then able to say, well, let's look at adding in the resources that are easy, that come naturally to you, so that you can feel like it's, you know, you can build it into your daily life really easily. And the bits that I love myself would be, yeah, sitting out in the sun. That's always a big one with my clients. You know, a good dose of exercise and jumping into the ocean. So I'm love the surf here, all of that. Being of service to others. It's an amazing part of the whole nourishment part. So if you're able to get out and just, you know, volunteer or do something, it gives back to you. It gives back to you in spades. Gosh, there is so much, but I guess another part would be work on the nervous system, knowing when you feel stressed, knowing that you're empowered to sit through it, an uncomfortable moment, and then just giving little tips that people can use to push through. So it's a sense of empowerment. You're basically saying you've got it within you, and there are little tips out there that you can use.
And did you find that different from your previous training as a counselor? And
yeah, I did. There was more work on cognitive aspects and emotional pain that you might be caught in, and that's really helpful as well. But certainly the coming at it from the angle of what you can do to calm yourself and boost your neural transmitters in a way, you know, through food and movement and other nourishment, it's just so empowering to many of my male and female clients. I had a client the other day that he lives near the ocean, and he was just able to realize why sitting in the sun, getting his surfboard and just going out in the waves for half an hour every morning was an absolutely key part to his whole self-care program, and it set him up for the day. And sometimes we do these things without knowing why they're so good for us. But as soon as you do it with intention, it just feels different. Yeah. So look, it's all those little bits and pieces that all add up.
yeah, it just occurred to me, you know, one of the big things, and I certainly do it in my DIY sober choice course. You know, that's one of the modules about your why. You know, what is your why in stopping? However, when, you know, the person going through the thing can grasp more of the why of what's happening neurochemically, that's where the leverage really is.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can say, oh, I want to do it for my kids, you know, I want to stop doing it for my kids, or just for my health. Like there's kind of that personal, but when you start connecting it of, this is what happens with, you know, the GABA response and the microbiome in the gut and the amygdala going into that delta brainwave state. When we can start to understand that why, we as the client, that's where it's like everything starts to link up. So we talk about the why,
yeah,
but I think what's missing is the why of why are these things in here? Like, why should I go surfing? Why should I sit in the sun? And it's like, we all hear that, but when we connect the physiology, all of a sudden, like the aha light bulb goes on. And it for me, for you all as coaches, and for clients, it's like, that's what I wanted. I've wanted that why for so long, and people aren't giving, you know, the practitioners aren't delivering that.
And you've just reminded me of just another interaction I had with a client, and it's actually quite common. It was through your training that I learned this. It was, so why do so many people get back after a social occasion, particularly a lot of them are women, and then drink alone.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had a really fun outing, you've socialized well, it's been really good, and then all of that's gone and you're home alone, and then you get the wine out and you're having a few glasses by yourself. And so many people, why am I doing this? Why? And it's self-soothing. You're activated. You're
Right.
that socializing has really put you in a moment that you're reaching for alcohol to self-soothe. And just knowing why is just then the start to undoing it all.
Yeah, the stress hormones are coming down, and it's just like the migraine headache. Like the headache happens at, it's like there's that constriction, and then the release and the relaxation, and that's when the headache comes. So it's like we've been bracing and going through the event. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to drink. But if there's nothing then to support that unclenching, then we want to drink to support the unclenching.
That's right.
Yeah. It's fascinating what the physiology does to protect us and keep us alive and keep us in that homeostatic state moment to moment.
Yeah. And we don't, do we? We're not taught it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the important piece. So I want to talk about now because again, I mentioned before, as we were coming on my intro with you, the unique pieces that, as all the different gray area drinking coaches have their unique sauce, which I just love to nurture and illuminate, and because different people different clients resonate with different coaches and are in different places where they need things. And one of the things that some people are needing is the support with their kids and alcohol, and that's one of the pieces you offer. So talk about your offerings and what you provide.
Okay, so really what I'm doing with my clients is what worked for me. So when clients do sign up with me, whether it's a month or a 3-month, they get immediate access to a 30-day course that I've got, which is the Alcohol Revolution program and the Alcohol Freedom Library. So with that, we kind of can dip into some of the modules of the course before we have our weekly session, and it just gives food for thought, and it gives a bit of knowledge beforehand so that we've always got something to talk about. There's always a few aha moments. And then part of that course, all of the bits and pieces that I've learned through you about, what might be your unmet needs. Why are you self-soothing with alcohol? Why are you using it as a reward? All of those bits and pieces. And then in my library, they've got lots of the tools and techniques that I've learned through you, which is a lot of the breath work, the meditating, all of the beautiful options that they've got. And so that's really sort of a large part of what I'm doing with men and women of all ages. And normally they're people that are busy working mums and dads. They really know about wellness. They've read up about wellness, but they're not really good at implementing it, So they're kind of really at that point where their self-care is wine, and they've hit that point where they're like, why am I doing it? So that's what I offer there. And then another part that has certainly been a passion project, and I think it was largely born out of the fact that I felt so guilty that I was away from my kids in rehab. I was I had to leave my 10, 11-year-olds with my husband, and my mum helped. So I really wanted to develop a program which was, how can we talk to our kids about alcohol in a way that they actually listen to us? So I've got a little kids and alcohol course, which is a pay what you want course. I want it to be accessible. And part of that are videos that you can watch with your kids that are short, sharp, engaging. Just goes through what alcohol does, why it is you want to drink, why some adults are obsessed with it, because I think they need to know why there's a disconnect between what our message is to them and then how we might be drinking at home. So it's got lots of little juicy bits and pieces in the course there. And I'm also like separately to my work as a counsellor, I'm a mentor with, I'm a program counsellor with a mentor organisation, so I work with teens a lot. So this is really for parents of kids that are aged between 10 and 14, kind of a preemptive program. acknowledging that nothing's perfect. There are always going to be bumps in the road with your kids, but it's just setting you up to open up the conversation around alcohol and life. Like it really helps connect parents with their kids. Yeah.
Such a needed resource, such a needed resource. So those of you listening, just know that that is available, and yeah, it's needed, but I don't know that there's many offerings out there with that. So it's just great that you've developed that and incorporated that as part of your offering, and you have that expertise as a counselor working with teens. I mean, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And you have kids yourself, and that whole mental health side of things.
That's right. Yeah, I think it is a needed resource. I'd love to see it rolled out in many spots, many parts. But I think, every parent out there wants to have this conversation, but sometimes you just don't know where.
Right. Isabella, what else? Tell everyone your Instagram handles so they can follow you and check out your offerings on Instagram.
I've got 2 Instagram handles. I've got Let's Talk Alcohol Australia. So it's a long handle. And then I've got Kids and Alcohol. So really caters to the 2. And then I'm just, my web is just isabellaferguson.com.au. And I've got a separate page on there all about kids and alcohol. And I've also got a separate page about lawyers and alcohol, because a large part of what I do is, well, I'd say at the moment, 60% of my clients are actually lawyers. They've listened to I've got a podcast as well called She Sober Sydney. And they've heard my story. And I think people just like to, get help from people that have walked the talk, I guess. And I give a few wellness presentations around Sydney as well.
And so all that info is on your Instagram. If they go to your Instagram and click the link, your podcast, your coaching, all of that's there.
All of it's there.
Okay.
Yeah. All of my.
I will link both your Instagrams below this recording.
Thank
you. What else? What have we not touched on that you want to share?
Yeah, look, I'd say that when you're a coach and a counselor, you can sometimes feel a bit untethered, like you're not connected to the community. And what I just value so much is the camaraderie that this group brings, because we're all over the globe. We've got different specialties and niches, and we're learning from each other. So you're really you're there able to bounce off not just thoughts around what we're learning and the resources, but really just have another soundboard there with things that you've encountered in your coaching life, but you're needing a bit of help with. So it's not just your coaching and the resources, and then it's the shared experience that is all brought together to be a coach, and I value that in every single meeting. I look forward to it, so much when it comes around. Yeah, I mean, I've learned so much. I have to say that, you think that you've reached a level of education with your practice, but you never do. There's always something more that you can learn from another person, and all of that will help our clients. So,
yeah. So Isabella is one of my master coaches, and so after the training, there's that opportunity to go into the master coach group where we meet twice a month. And so that's what Isabella's referring to. And it is nice professionally. I've had many years professionally where I was just a bit of a lone wolf, teaching and coaching. And so I created this to have that exact thing, that collaboration, that community support, both personally and professionally. Because I think that's where practitioners get into trouble, is practicing in an isolated place, just trying to carry it all, hold it all. And where's the off button? Where's the release? So that's my big intention with that offering after people go through the training, to go on into the master coach group.
Yeah, it's invaluable. It's really, really good.
Wonderful. Well, Isabella, I've said to the other coaches who have been on, are you also open if people want to reach out to you personally and just hear more about your experience with the training?
Oh, you yeah. You can look. What's the best way? You can send me a message via Instagram or my email address, just isabellaferguson.com.au. Ask me anything about the coaching program. I'm accessible and I'm here. I'd love to talk to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Isabella, for your time. The conversations always go so quickly.
I know.
So, anything else? Anything before we sign off?
No, I think I've covered it. I'm sure I'm going to get off and think of a million things I wish I'd said. But no, I think I've covered it all that I can think of. Just thank you for your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time. And I'm going to join you on your podcast next week. You're going to...
Yeah, that's...
Yeah. You'll interview me. So I'll post that when that's published. So I'm excited to be a guest.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Isabella. Thanks for your time tonight here in the US and in the morning in Australia. And I'll see you soon. I love all the work you're doing.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
See you soon. Bye-bye.